Tell him. I told you so.
And what happened? We lost 20% of our military-aged men. That's right. So tell me, when Hannibal
Slap him.
approaches, what do? We run away. I'm a genius.
Bam.
Clap for me.
There you go. Please clap.
After Cannae, Fabius Maximus kind of became the unofficial leader of Rome. Even if others were elected consul, his influence
Didn't
was
matter.
unparalleled, and Rome quickly reverted.
I love learning about historical events like this because you can find them either repeated throughout history or even in like modern day terms. Because at the end of the day, when like humans are put in extreme situations like these, they still overall kind of behave the same because our fear mechanics still work the same as they did obviously 2,000 years ago. So how we react to fear, what we do in the face of fear, we can like kind of predict how and what we're going to do into the future.
To the Fabian strategy of avoiding Hannibal. They knew they couldn't defeat him, so instead, they hoped
Because obviously
they
the
could
Romans
at
are a little
least
afraid right now.
contain him. They raised
Containment.
an impressively large number of men, partly by enlisting teenagers, slaves, and criminals.
Nice.
And rather than trying to fight Hannibal, they instead turned their attention towards those treacherous southern
Good thing that
cities.
the Romans didn't just send all their criminals to like a faraway continent, right? I don't know why I'm thinking of Australia right now, but maybe not the best reference.
that had switched sides.
But
thanks for
good-
joining the winning team.
good
guys.
warriors.
Here's the deal. All you have to do is provide me some troops and defend your own city, since I'll be too busy to defend it for you. Now, I'm going to briefly turn around, look this way,
Oh,
and when
I'm
I look
not
back,
surprised.
You better not be being massacred by the Romans. Oh, for goodness sake! The Romans spread out their newly
Yeah, I'm not surprised
formed
about that.
legions and began attacking the southern cities here, there, everywhere. The southern cities expected to have Hannibal's protection, and Hannibal was inundated with requests for help. He was forced to run around.
Funny how
southern
that
Italy
actually
trying
ended
to
up being such a negative thing for him. You would think it'd be like the final blow to the Roman Empire, like losing all the southern half of the boot. I guess not really. It actually caused him a lot more pain and suffering.
encouraged defection while
Mentally,
rescuing his
anxiety.
own allies. But when he showed up, the Romans would often leave, only to come back the second he went away again.
That's all you gotta
And
do.
as these
Run
southern
away.
cities found themselves being punished severely by the Romans, they began to realize that joining Hannibal may not have been
Well,
such
you
a
kind of, I mean, you kind of have to do that. If I'm the Roman leadership at this time and a bunch of my cities defected to the enemy, you better believe there's going to be a strong price to pay. Like, I'm going to put you up on stakes, possibly. Not sure why I decided to have a Vlad the Impaler moment. Oversimplified should make his next video about this, actually. That gives me a whole nother idea. Like a tier list of oversimplified videos he should do into the future. Man, we messed up. Yeah, you can say that again.
Hey! You think you're so big? Attacking my allies? Why don't you come out and face me?
Like a man!
You're scary! The fickle southern cities frequently switched sides depending on who appeared to be winning.
Man,
and the whole
I can't even imagine these comment sections. I can't wait to read them at the end of this video. I'm sure a lot of them are making the joke that I made earlier, referencing World War II Germany or World War Germany in general.
situation became a nightmare for Hannibal to control,
Jeez.
playing a constant game of Roman whack-a-mole to fend off the enemy armies.
Oh, look at like the Mr. Potato Head, the Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers.
Not long ago
Duckies?
seemed near extinction. The Romans had managed to turn the situation around by placing Hannibal in a clever predicament. If he left southern Italy, the southern cities would likely capitulate to Rome. Meaning
Are these
he
essentially
couldn't
country
leave.
balls? Kind of city-state balls in a way, but yeah, basically like the icons for him.
And since the Romans wouldn't fight him, he couldn't inflict any more dangerous defeats.
I love they won't fight
For
him.
now, Hannibal
Wow.
had been muzzled.
Crazy that we went
Southern
through 3 parts of this series without a Hannibal Lecter joke. Like, that's actually incredible.
Had been muzzled. Southern
Muzzled.
Italy had been his
Impressive, honestly. I don't think I would have gone through the first like 5 seconds of doing this myself. That's a very important movie.
impressive Italian campaign. But those clever Romans found a way to take his prize and turn it into his prison. With
Containment.
the Fabian strategy neutralizing Hannibal for now, the Romans were freed
keeps
up
him down
to
there.
refocus their attention
And then
to other
put more defenses, obviously, into Rome, bring back military-age men somehow. I mean, the only thing I can think of is just paying outside empires.
fronts.
Home is where we do the things we love with the people we love. So what if we live tomorrow in the same place as we did yesterday? With help, we can. Home instead for a better what's next.
Outside Oh, taking the
This
battle
whole
back
time,
to
while
North
we were
Africa?
discussing Hannibal and the Italian campaign of the Second Punic War.
You gotta get him out of
fighting
Italy,
had
I think.
actually been occurring elsewhere. For example, in 216 BC, the Romans had
This is such an important, I mean, obviously, but I don't know why I even needed to say that, but look at how massively important, like seeing this map makes me think, like, look at how crucial this whole battle was. They are fighting for the entirety of the Mediterranean, essentially, and who is going to inevitably dominate for centuries to come. If Carthage wins here, again, our world is unrecognizable. Languages like Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, they're just completely different. The Carthaginians, who knows what ends up happening? It's hard to imagine.
elsewhere. For example, in 216 BC, the Romans had
I mean, for
sent
sure,
an
the mythology of like Roman mythology, Greek mythology, is kind of lesser popularized. It's more of the Phoenician mythology, I guess, Phoenician gods.
north to punish the Celtic tribes that had joined Hannibal. However, as the Romans entered the Latana forest, little did they know those clever Celts had set up a trap.
Vietnam
The
strats.
Celts dropped trees
Not
on them,
really.
decimating the
Okay.
Romans, and they even took the commander's head to use as
Nice.
a religious sippy cup.
Nice.
So that
The
went-
Celts, not surprised to see them doing stuff like that. Pretty on par for the most part. In this case, the trees weren't talking like in Vietnam, the trees were just falling.
Took the commander's head to use as a
Well-
religious sippy cup.
Nice.
So that
Cool.
went pretty bad. Whoa, very bad.
20,000
But thankfully, in other
jeez.
theaters, things were
That is
going
not just a
better.
minor L. Like, that is another giant L to be taking right after Hannibal just absolutely spanked them.
better. For example, let's look at Sicily. After Cannae, internal chaos in Syracuse caused this
Syracuse.
longtime Roman ally to switch
Forgot that's an
sides,
Italian city
because
name.
being a winner is more fun. The Carthaginians also landed troops
Oh, the laugh. Man, Italy's so funny. This is not helping the allegations, I will tell you that.
hoping to retake their
Mean
lost
allegations.
island, while Roman proconsul Claudius Marcellus
Is it surprising that the southern cities were rebelling to Carthage, though? Not really. Geographically, how close they were, and the ties to Carthaginians, the historical ties to Carthaginians in the past.
moved in
Like, it's not
to besiege Syracuse.
Shocking.
The siege was a brutal slug for the Romans.
And especially, like, we just saw part 2. We saw how dominant. Like, imagine, it's interesting the way this video is kind of set up because people are forced to learn about this story. A lot of people are learning about this story for the very first time. And part 2, you got to see kind of what the ancient world was looking at. You just see Hannibal taking dub after dub after dub. I think it's fair to say a lot of people watching this video would probably also revert to the Hannibal side, the Carthaginian side, because it's like, wow, it's inevitable. These guys are going to win.
Due to the
Why not try to
presence
save
of
my
one
life
famous scientist
and my
and
family's life?
mathematician, Archimedes. He lived in Syracuse at the time, and he invented a variety of clever contraptions to defend the city. There was a giant claw that could grab and destroy Roman ships.
Oh, nice.
And purportedly even a big mirror that could magically ignite them.
Nice.
The Carthaginian forces on the island attempted to come to Syracuse's rescue, but luckily for the Romans, they all got diarrhea
Oh, cool.
and then died. Finally,
Crazy how like devastating diarrhea actually is. I mean, I know how devastating it can be, but I mean, like, it's even worse in terms of the historical sense.
city itself, the day of a big annual religious festival came, and the Syracusans said, "Well, fellas, we've been holding off the Romans for over a year now. I think we've earned ourselves a little party."
Oh boy.
Sir, we're still under a massive siege. Are you sure? They'll probably take advantage of it. Well, Carl, I'm taking
Too
advantage
late.
of the open bar. Sir, they've got battering rams. Well, Carl, I'm ramming these hors d'oeuvres into my mouth.
I mean, to be fair, when it comes to sieges, a lot of sieges take a long time. Weeks, months, even years sometimes. So wanting to throw like one party one night, probably not the most insane thing.
Sir, they'll tear down
I
our
mean,
walls.
obviously,
Well, Carl, I'm
this is an
tearing
example of how bad it
on
could
the
go.
dance floor. Sir, they're literally at the gates.
But one thing you'll notice about humans is they'll always like to party, even with the overarching doom that might be seemingly above their head.
Well, Carl, I'm literally at the cheese platter.
Oof.
Marcellus took advantage of the drunken festivities, stormed the city, and plundering in.
I wonder if, like, did someone hear, oh, look, they're taking the booty. Did somebody, like, hear over the walls, like, oh, these guys are clearly partying, they're drunk, it's time to strike. This might not have been the very first time. Maybe it was the biggest party they threw, though.
ordered Archimedes be captured alive. Some sources say Roman troops entered Archimedes' home, and they were like, "Hey man, are you the math guy? Go away. I'm drawing circles. Look, I just need to know if you're the nerd. Come on, bro, get out of here. You're messing up my circles." Now is not a good time to draw circles. It's always a good time for circles. I
Math
love
nerds.
circles. Either stop drawing the circles or I kill you. I choose the circles.
I'm not surprised.
Despite not securing Archimedes, by 210
I mean, I was gonna say, like, really, you're gonna tell the Romans to bring somebody back alive? I don't think that's even in their dictionary. They don't know how to do that.
BC, the Romans did secure Sicily.
Did they do it in the
and
past?
also
They probably
put
have
down
done
a
it, but
Carthage-supported
doesn't sound very
rebellion
Roman
on
at the
nearby
time.
Sardinia. 2 Roman successes. And
Getting
there
your
were
islands
more
back.
to come. After Cannae, King Philip V of Macedon saw an opportunity. He was concerned with recent Roman expansion into Illyria, and so
Modern-day
when he
Albania?
saw Hannibal annihilating the Romans in Italy.
It's funny how often the Italians have moved into Albania. They really like that piece of land.
Oh my gosh! Hey! Hey, Hannibal! Oh my gosh!
Can he actually
you're so
swim? Is he
cool.
one of the very few people of the ancient? I'm sure this is just for the joke, but one of those old humans. I mean, a lot of people still can't swim to this day, but especially not back in the day.
Let's form an alliance and annihilate the Romans together. Sure. Yes!
Of course, they'd want that.
Hannibal hoped to secure Philip's help in fighting Rome, but a Roman army was sent to the region, stirred up Philip's other Greek opponents, and essentially kept Philip bogged down in Greece
so
for
genius.
the entire duration of the war.
First Macedon
Another
War.
kind of Roman success.
Yeah. I mean, they should have gotten absolutely obliterated, so I would say it's a dub.
In front, Rome was hoping to push Carthage back in, was Spain. The riches of Spain made it one of Carthage's most
I don't know if I would have done that, maybe if I had more information, but I would have thought, like, bring it back to North Africa, the spot that obviously they're going to be the most defensive about. They don't want their real homeland to go down. But maybe they probably just wouldn't care about Carthage, so maybe they do think they'd get some easy victories there.
Remember way back at the
Sorry,
start
Carthage wouldn't care about Iberia.
of the war, the consul Scipio was supposed to go to Spain, but ended up rushing back to Italy when he realized Hannibal was crossing the Alps. He then faced Hannibal at Ticinus and had to be rescued by his son. Well, after he recovered from his wounds, he proceeded with the original plan and joined his brother in Spain.
Dang.
There, the 2 Scipio brothers fought a successful campaign against Hannibal's brother, Hasdrubal.
Nice.
Over the next
Kuba
few
Troopers.
years, they won a number of key victories, even taking Saguntum, the city that had kick-started this entire war. Yet more Roman
That was a
success.
very moral victory
A
there.
trend appeared to be emerging. Whenever the Romans fought anyone other than Hannibal, they usually
It was good.
came out on top.
Hannibal,
Perhaps.
that's just an absolute beast. This is making me hope that we eventually get like a Hannibal in a Civilization 7 at some point. He appears as a great general in Civilization 6, but now that anyone can be a leader in the new game, that's going to be pretty interesting. I say, why not throw Hannibal in?
These other fronts would be the key to Rome taking back
I
control.
love the emoji
of
with
this
the
war.
thumbs up.
Perhaps it
I
was
love
time
using
for
that
Rome
in my
to return
videos.
to their old ways
The thumbnails.
of being the aggressive go-getters. And perhaps it would help if Rome had a Hannibal of their own.
Nice. He just needed to build up some XP. He had an XP farm for a little bit first before he'd able to take on.
Scipio, the younger, was the son of Publius Scipio, currently fighting in Spain.
Nice.
This made him a member of one of Rome's most prestigious families. Not much is known of his childhood, although there is one story
Was he actually
of how
bald?
He was getting hot and heavy with a young lady.
Well, he wasn't
only
bald
to have his
all the
dad
time,
barge in
apparently.
and drag him out wearing nothing but a cloak. This story was written by a Roman poet to make Scipio look bad, but by modern standards has ended up making him look pretty rad. My guess is if Rome had a high school football team, Scipio would be the quarterback.
Nice.
Scipio was only 18 when the Second Punic War broke
Wow.
out. He was at the Battle of Ticinus, where he famously rescued his father, and he was one of the survivors
That's where he lost all his hair. I get it. The stress makes sense.
of the Battle of Cannae, after which he threatened to cut down any man who dared abandon
That's right. From
Rome.
part 2, we saw
He
this.
was a natural leader and up to his ears in spunk, and therefore
Spunk?
he rose through the Roman ranks
Okay.
shockingly fast. We need a new military tribune, but Hannibal has killed so many men.
Nice flag in the background. Glad we're seeing a little bit of that image in these videos.
Out of options.
Because this
Put me
makes-
in, coach.
Oh, nice.
Scipio,
Helmet 2.
You're only 20. You can't be a tribune. Come on, coach. Put me in. Well, you do have a lot of spunk.
He's asking.
All right.
He's telling him,
You're-
get me off the bench, coach. Why keep him on the bench in the first place? You need more men.
We need to elect a new Edom.
You lost
Who do we
20%.
have left? Put me in, coach. Scipio, you don't meet the minimum age requirement. I got this, coach. I got this. Well, okay then.
What do you mean minimum?
Ugh,
Well, they were putting
my room's a
14-year-olds
mess.
in.
I gotta cook dinner. Oh, and would you look at that? My fly's down. Life sucks. Put me in, coach. Wow, you're so
This
punky.
This
When
guy's
Scipio
incredible.
was 25, however, he received some bad news. His father and uncle in Spain had both been defeated in battle,
Ooh.
and shockingly, both of them were killed.
Ooh.
The news must have been devastating for the young Scipio, but it was
This
also
probably turned him into
devastating
rage
for
mode.
Rome, as almost all of their Spanish gains were wiped away.
Dang.
Okay, listen up. We need someone to go and replace the Scipios in Spain. So,
Scipio's in
who's
Spain.
up for it?
SS. Wait,
Come
that's a weird. Anyways,
Who's gonna go? Fabius, Spain seems unwinnable. There's no glory to be had there. Yeah, the glory is here, defending the homeland from Hannibal. Well, somebody has to go.
sending the young kid.
I said, well, somebody has to go.
There he is, like the Kool-Aid Man.
Scipio was eager to be the
I mean,
one to go and
his
replace
dad
his
died.
father
You gotta
and
put
uncle
the son in.
Spain. However, there was concern amongst the older senators. You're only 26. You can't lead a military campaign.
That's crazy that they're saying this, because I mean, 26. I mean, this is like leadership, but 26 in terms of like the age life expectancy. I mean, is pretty up there, kind of. But in a leadership, yeah. I mean, look how old this dude is.
And you're 71. You can't stand up without a little urine dribbling down your leg. That's a good
Ooh.
point. Absolutely right. Scipio didn't meet the typical requirements.
I mean, look at Alexander the Great, and the Romans would have obviously known about Alexander the Great and all his conquests being so young.
Position. But as the only person willing to go, this young piece of hot Roman meat was unanimously elected proconsul and sent to lead the Roman armies in Spain. He hoped to carry out a campaign as impressive as Hannibal's had been in Italy. In fact,
Gotta one-up him somehow.
Scipio rather admired the one-eyed general.
I mean,
Scipio, you've got a Hannibal poster in your room. Yes, but he's the enemy. I'll let you in on a secret, Billy.
This
you
is-
know how we're gonna win this war? By marching straight at the enemy? No, that's the old.
Yeah,
way.
not doing that
We've
anymore.
Gotta be less Roman and a little more Hannibal.
that is what the Romans did so well, using the tactics that completely obliterated them against them. Like, they take the strategies that work and they implement them. That's like genius.
Hey, by the way, don't just barge into my room. That's an infringement of my privacy. Privacy. Privacy, you say?
Nord!
Well, Scipio, if it's privacy you want, then you, my friend, need Nord
Oh,
VPN.
I thought it was gonna be. I thought he was actually gonna go an opposite direction. I thought it wasn't gonna be about NordVPN
Oh yeah, Hannibal contained a
again.
young piece
Containment.
of hot Roman meat sent
Meat.
to lead the
Like how the
Roman
arrow
armies in
points there.
Spain. Scipio was charismatic, extremely confident, bold, and probably most importantly of all, he thought differently from other Roman generals.
Sometimes
Skippy,
bald is
what's the plan? Don't call me that. We're
the
Roman,
best.
So
I mean, he looks cool. I'm trying to think of like some of the best generals in history. There's some bald ones in there. It feels like all the generals should be bald, though. It just fits nicely, I feel. Napoleon wasn't bald, but he definitely was going in that direction. Have you seen his hairline? I wonder, like, in his final days, if he lost it all.
as usual, right? We march straight at the enemy, right? Get this,
We have
Billy.
to stop doing that.
No, we don't.
What?
Scipio was
Mind
a real
blown.
outside-the-box thinker. There were 3 main Carthaginian armies in Spain, 2 led by Hannibal's brothers, Hasdrubal and Mago, and another led by
Mago.
Hasdrubal Gisco. Most Roman generals might have looked at these armies and said, I just gotta, march straight at these guys and kick their ass and stuff.
That's what the Romans
But not
tend to think.
Scipio.
But
At a time when many believed winning battles won wars, one of Scipio's greatest strengths was an ability to see the overall strategy behind
but
his actions.
why do we
He
win
knew that
battles?
Spain was the closest thing Hannibal had to a base of support. With its mass resources and manpower,
Hmm.
it's where Hannibal likely hoped to get supplies and reinforcements from.
Nice.
Spain's base of support
That's
was
the thing.
where
That's such an interesting concept because technically battles don't necessarily win the war. I guess that's obviously maybe the whole point of this. The whole phrase, you win the battle but not the war. Logistics is what wins wars. And we're literally talking about that. Resources and things like that, base support.
city of New Carthage, the most fortified city on the peninsula, perfectly positioned to communicate with and receive supplies
the most
from Africa.
supplies,
And
see?
so, if Scipio managed
Logistics.
to take New Carthage, he could take Spain. And if he took Spain, then maybe Hannibal would fall. To Scipio, Spain wasn't
Back at
just
home.
some sideshow. It
Funny
was
how
the
connected these regions are geographically throughout history. You know, Spain, the Naples region of Italy, North Africa. I mean, I guess they're all surrounded by the Mediterranean. They're all Mediterranean regions, but man, they've just always had relations with each other.
show.
Which sounds
And it all rested
weirder
on
than
New Carthage.
I meant it to be.
But a surprise attack on Carthage's
I don't know if he's
capital
actually
city
bald.
in
Oh, maybe he is
Spain,
bald.
It was a ridiculous idea. Even if you pull off the 7-day forced march past the Carthaginian armies to New Carthage. Once you get there, you'd only have a couple weeks to take the city.
New
before the
Carthage. There's a city in the
Carthaginians
US
arrived
called New
to
Carthage.
kick your ass. Sieges of cities that fortified usually took months.
It's funny how we even take city names with like new in them. Making the city of New York and stealing a city called York. I mean, I get that. That's been an American strategy. Man, Louisiana too, just stealing the new part of it.
if not years.
You know what they say. You get out, what you put in. I'm 2 steps ahead, and being a step ahead. We've got big goals in this kingdom. I built this, level by level, box by box. I've reached the top.
If not years. So, Scipio, how are you going to pull this off? Well, first of all, to make sure the surprise plan stayed hidden, Scipio kept it a total secret, even from his own men. Where are we going, Skippy? I'm not telling you. Is it Disneyland? I'm not telling you.
That's right. They had Disneyland back in the day.
Going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
This secrecy
It might be as
kept
fun
the
as Disneyland, who
Carthaginians
knows?
From preemptively reinforcing the city. As a result, New Carthage was left under garrisoned because the Carthaginians believed it to be kind of naturally impenetrable. It was surrounded on 3 sides by a lagoon and
Nice.
only accessible via a narrow isthmus. What's an isthmus, you ask? Maybe read a
I
book.
can't believe after all this time, I'm still portrayed as, well, this guy, which isn't that far off, if I'm being real.
All right, Scipio, you made it to New Carthage. Now the other Carthaginian armies are only a 10 days march from coming and kicking your ass. Just what were you thinking? Well, Scipio had learned something crucial. Every afternoon, the tides made the lagoon around New Carthage briefly shallow enough to cross.
How did he learn
So,
that?
He ordered a large
What poor
diversionary attack
person did
on
he
the main city gates,
steal?
distracting the city's
Or I don't know. I can only think of like he grabbing like somebody that's around town that left the walls for a second. I mean, maybe not. Maybe if he just like sat outside for a little bit, hiding. How many men did he have? How could he hide that well? I don't know. How did he learn that information? It's amazing.
Then, a small infiltration force traversed the lagoon, climbed the unguarded northern walls, and entered the city. They ambushed the guards and opened the city gates to the rest of Scipio's army. And
Damn.
just like that,
Flowing
New
on in.
Carthage had fallen. In a single day, Scipio
It's really
had
interesting how we display these maps. I know this is like the nice way to do it, but obviously with this ancient warfare stuff, it's just about taking these major fortifications. So it's really just like Roman taking this, Roman here, Roman here. I mean, essentially they control the lands around it, but again, it's really about taking the cities.
taken Carthage's
I guess in a way
capital
it's still
city in
kind of like
Spain,
that, but not
and he
really.
made
I
it
mean,
look
there's
easy.
massive fronts
With
now.
He seized
World
much
War
of
One.
Carthage's war supplies, several silver mines near
But
the
I mean,
city.
that's an important difference. Obviously, we just saw in the other video, Carthage just like running through Roman lands. It kind of seems hard to comprehend. But if you're not, interacting with like the major cities where they have armies and things like that, you can just like walk through other people's lands.
And various
That
powerful
happens for a
Iberian
while.
tribes even joined his side. And now he was in a great position to take on the other Carthaginian armies in Spain. Wow, Skippy, you're
You
amazing.
actually did it.
Don't call me that. How'd you know the lagoon would get shallow? It's almost like you speak to the gods. No, I told him. All
Ah.
the local farmers know about the yes, that's it.
Local
I
farmers.
speak to the gods.
That's funny that we literally had that question.
Scipio had no
Okay.
problem allowing his men to think he was divinely inspired. Roman writers also tell us
Hey.
another of Scipio's traits. He was apparently quite merciful in victory and often protected the inhabitants of captured cities. Spencer! What are you doing? Well, I was just about to murder this family. Hey, bad Spencer!
I thought that's
No.
the reason why we
Can I at least kill the dad?
went to war.
No. What about the... No! Oh, you're mean. The
You're no
Carthaginian generals
fun.
in the region must have been shocked.
I mean, it's pretty sick to think about, but how many of those soldiers did? I mean, that was the benefit, right, to winning the battles. No, I don't want to get into this.
the loss of their capital city. There was now a Terminator in Spain, and he
Oh, nice.
was coming.
T3000?
In 208 BC, he made a move on Hasdrubal, hoping to defeat him before the other Carthaginian armies could come and link up. When Hasdrubal heard Scipio was coming,
He's
he
coming!
said, Hasdrubal
Probably.
did the sensible thing.
So
and
interesting,
climbed a
we're
big
seeing
hill
like
for
the opposite now happen. In Spain, in Carthaginian lands at the time, they're now beginning to fear Scipio like they feared Hannibal, the Romans did.
safety. Hey! Get down here! I want to kill you. Fat chance, Vin Diesel! Well, he doesn't have to be rude. So what's the plan then, Scipio? This time, we
He
march
does look
straight
like
up
Vin
and at
Diesel.
him. Right? Right, Scipio? Billy? No. Scipio once again displayed a distinctly not Roman approach to fighting, when instead of marching straight up and
That
at
must
him,
have really
Scipio feigned
freaked
a
the
frontal
Carthaginians
skirmish,
out,
only to
just
pull
because
up.
they'd been fighting the Carthaginians for years and years at this point. To see them employ different strategies like, whoa, they're actually adapting, evolving. I didn't think they did that.
A surprise uphill envelopment. Not an easy thing to do, but Scipio had trained his army to pull off maneuvers that typical Roman armies couldn't. After the battle, the defeated Hasdrubal fled Spain, hoping to link up with his brother Hannibal in Italy. And Hannibal desperately needed the help. As Scipio was dominating in Spain, Hannibal's struggles in southern Italy continued. He was convinced that if he just
To do.
received ample supplies and
reinforcements, kick Rome's
he
butt.
could reverse his fortunes and get back to kicking Rome's ass.
But from
For
where?
the remainder of the war, he would suffer a frustrating lack of support from the Carthaginian Senate.
Ooh.
After Cannae, Hannibal had sent his brother Mago to Carthage, where he famously poured out golden rings taken from fallen Roman knights. He told the Senate that with reinforcements, Hannibal could finish the job. But a growing faction in the Senate, possibly jealous
Corruption.
of Hannibal's rising influence, opposed sending any help. In the end, a
Ooh.
large number of the reinforcements gathered for Hannibal now ended up being diverted
Ooh.
to stop Scipio in Spain. Just as he had hoped, Scipio's campaign
Breaking
in
news, Hannibal struggling back at home. Oh, do you go back and defeat him now? Who knows?
Spain was actively harming Hannibal in Italy. However, those
But who's going to
reinforcements
defeat him
meant
back
that
in
when
Italy?
Scipio made a move on the remaining Carthaginian armies in
206
Spain,
BC.
they now likely outnumbered him. With the odds heavily stacked against him,
That doesn't mean anything. I mean, we literally saw in part 2. You could be outnumbered and still win in an overwhelming fashion. You just got to be a great general, which Scipio, I think, clearly is.
serious skill to win this battle. This time we're gonna march straight at them, right? No, Billy!
We've stopped that, Billy. Just get him out. Just get him out of the ranks.
Alipa is often considered
Sacrifice him to the
Scipio's
gods, maybe.
masterpiece because it was positively oozing with deception and trickery. First,
That's the way to go
both
about
sides
it.
Spent several days forming up and facing off.
It seems
without
like those are
actually
the-
fighting. On each day, Scipio placed his strongest Roman legions in the center, with his weaker Iberian allies on the sides. Seeing this, the Carthaginians were like, "This guy's an idiot. We've seen his plan. His strongest troops are going to be in the center, so let's form all of our
Love how much of a chess game this whole thing is. Battles. I mean, you see it reflected in like modern sports as well. You know, football, there's like trickery involved. You can see a team obviously win that's significantly less skilled if, you know, they pull a little magic.
How do we get here? Well, it's all because of this moment. And this one. And this one. And yeah, even this one. Because success starts with what you wear. And when you love the way you look, you enjoy every moment a little bit more. A wardrobe that fits the life you built. Mizzen and Main.
South Korea's #1 probiotics drink, Will. With Son Heung-min, the Premier League's top scorer, becomes the global #1 probiotic.
Skilled if, you know, they pull a little magic and trick plays, things like that.
battle plans based on this information. I'm sure he won't change anything at the last minute. Then, when the day of battle came, Scipio woke up the Carthaginians with an early morning attack, causing them to rush out of camp without breakfast. When the Carthaginians lined up with their strongest troops in the center to meet Scipio's, they were stunned to find that Scipio had completely reversed his order.
Wow.
The weaker Carthaginian sides now found Scipio's strongest bearing down on them.
And then they're going to
in an
wrap around them.
Extremely impressive
Like what
maneuver,
Hannibal did.
The well-trained Roman wings even stretched out during their approach, hitting the Carthaginians from the sides. The Carthaginian center could have turned to help, but Scipio had ordered his center to approach so slowly that Carthage's center could do nothing but just stand and wait.
Imagine being in that center line and being forced to walk. Like, I would be like, what is this guy doing? What is this general having us doing? We're just inching forward, while we're seeing our brothers fight alone. You want to go. And then probably after a couple minutes, you start to realize, like, oh my God, this is genius. It's actually going to work. That you start to understand the plan.
In this way, the outnumbered Scipio had cleverly controlled events so that the bulk of the strongest Carthaginian troops couldn't even fight during the battle. He had completely removed them from the equation. The
Chopping down the edges.
Scipio had inflicted a monumental defeat on a much larger enemy force.
Wow.
And the battle
Not
of Ilipa
quite
was the
as significant as the Hannibal victory, but it's really close.
final nail in
Like,
the
I mean, like
coffin
numerically. Obviously, overall for the war, it's going to have a pretty big impact.
for Carthaginian Spain. Yet more tribespeople continued to side with the Romans, and the remaining Carthaginians
Man, these
retreated
ancient
to the
people are just so
coast
fickle.
And eventually fled the
They have no
peninsula.
loyalty, do they?
And would you look at that? In just a few years, the incredible young Scipio had turned Spain completely red. The Carthaginians must
Red
have
wave.
been stunned. His Spanish campaign had
I feel like
almost been as
Carthage should be portrayed as purple, though. Aren't they usually portrayed as purple, blue on the map? It looks better. Purple looks too close to red.
impressive as Hannibal's campaign in Italy.
Well, I
In
see.
fact,
Hannibal's
see
got
if any
purple.
of this sounds familiar. In Spain, Scipio had used the environment of the battlefield to his advantage. He staged ambushes by concealed troops. He treated local tribespeople well. earning
How much
their
did Napoleon
friendship.
Bonaparte
He even once forced his
search-
enemy to
research
come
both
out and
these
fight him
guys?
without
I can't
breakfast.
imagine.
Each and
He
every
must have
one
a
of
lot.
these tactics were possibly borrowed from a certain one-eyed general. In all the battles Scipio had fought against Hannibal.
So it's actually a good thing that Scipio worshipped his
have been
enemy.
taking notes.
Hey! Scipio!
What?
Stop stealing my tactics!
Stop copying
I'm
me!
700 miles away! I can't hear you! What did you say?
What?
I think this is inevitably leading to such a big showdown between those two.
Scipio's achievement in taking a well-fortified city, plus his understanding of the overall
Take New Carthage,
strategy,
take Spain,
has led
defeat
some
Hannibal.
historians to argue he wasn't just as good as Hannibal. Scipio may actually have been better.
Well, we'll
This
talk about
young
that.
man,
Let's see.
Who many in Rome had doubted, had just shut those silly billies right the flip up. Mere years ago, it looked like Rome had no chance of even surviving this war. But now,
What a comeback
the
after a couple
momentum
years.
of war was shifting astonishingly
Turn of the tide.
fast. And for Hannibal in Italy, things continued
Is he pouting?
to head south. Before Scipio had even gone to Spain, the Romans had placed Capua, Hannibal's largest city in Italy.
So it sounds like
under a
Hannibal should have
dangerous siege.
marched on
And
Rome.
in order to rescue it, Hannibal needed to take drastic action. Fast. Man, everything's falling apart. Fine, I'll do it. Do what? Yeah, you've convinced me. I'll march on Rome. Hannibal.
Really feels like the waves to this massive conflict between these two. It just constantly went back and forth and back and forth. One side looked like it was going to win, then the other, then the other, then the other. So chaotic.
Conversation was 5 years ago. It's too late. No one's trying to convince you to march on Rome.
I said I'll do it!
Dang, with the
Quit
chair?
nagging me. Ugh.
Crazy.
Hannibal finally marched on Rome.
Ah,
hoping it might
but
draw the Romans
it's been
away
years
from
later.
Capua. The Romans saw Hannibal approaching their city, and they freaked the hell out.
Oh, yeah. Well, at that time, they were running away from
closely
him.
approached the city walls,
That was the
inspecting
strategy they were talking about
defenses,
beforehand.
As the Romans inside
They probably
quivered in
hit
their
him a couple
togas.
times.
However, Hannibal probably knew he had no chance of taking the city. The whole thing was a feint, and Hannibal soon left. The Romans famously coined the phrase, Hannibal is at the gates, to describe a moment of crisis or severe desperation.
I
But
see.
for accuracy's sake, the phrase should probably be, Hannibal is at the gates. But don't worry, it's just a feint to draw the Romans away from Capua. And it didn't even work.
Dang.
Because the Romans stayed at Capua, and the Capuans misunderstood and thought Hannibal had abandoned them. And so, they surrendered the
That's
city.
crazy. That's
apparently
crazy.
that's not-
I mean, for them to have not gone back to protect their Roman city, the capital, crazy. They stood on their ground, stood on their business.
Catchy. Despite a few successes, including an ambush in 208 BC, where Hannibal managed to kill both consuls in one go, Hannibal was slowly but steadily losing his grip on southern Italy. Even Hasdrubal, who had fled Spain to join Hannibal, never reached his brother. He made his own dramatic crossing of the Alps, just as Hannibal had done. But unlike Hannibal, the second Hasdrubal arrived in Italy, he was immediately pulverized.
Oof.
The Romans
Yeah,
then
wouldn't
took
work
his
two
head
times.
and threw it over the walls into his brother's camp.
Nice.
Hannibal was becoming extremely isolated.
Dang.
After his impressive conquest
Psychological
of Spain,
warfare.
Scipio returned to Rome a hero. And when the election came for next year's consuls, despite not meeting the typical requirements, Scipio won in a landslide. But the question now was, what would he do next? All right, what's your plan then, Scipio? You're gonna go fight Hannibal now, right? Get this, Fabius?
No.
No.
Does it go straight to Carthage?
Scipio's plan remained
Straight
the
to
same
North
as
Africa?
before.
Elections are about choices. They help set the direction for our neighbors, our community.
Does it go straight to Carthage?
Scipio's plan remained
Straight
the
to
same
North
as
Africa?
before. Don't attack the monster directly. Attack his base of support, which now happened to be Carthage itself. That's right.
Hmm. Pull him back.
Scipio would invade Africa. However, Scipio understood that any invasion of Africa would stand a much better chance if he could secure an alliance with one of the African tribes.
Numidian cavalry.
Throughout the war, Carthage's far superior Numidian cavalry, which came from this part of Africa, had played a critical role in winning battles. Numidia was divided between two rival kings. In the east,
Oh, so he just
the
gets
king
one?
Syphax had sympathized with Rome for much of the war, and so at some point, Scipio visited Syphax to ratify a treaty.
How did he sneak
It
behind
just
enemy
so
lines like
happened,
that?
However, that the Carthaginian general Hasdrubal Gisco, whom Scipio had fought in Spain, also arrived at the exact same time.
Whoa.
And so Syphax invited both Scipio and Gisco for a meal.
Crazy.
Two men fought for Syphax's alliance, and by Roman accounts, Scipio was positively charming. Come on,
Dang.
Syphax. Stick
He
with
really
us
was the quarterback of the football team. He had the oral. There's got to be a better word there. Never mind. He
We'll
just
build a
could
naked
speak.
statue of you.
Good. That's
Very
impressive. Not only
enticing.
win battles.
If you join our side, Syphax, we'll give you a 2% discount on figs. You like figs, don't you?
I like
not
figs.
Really. Hey, Syphax.
Oh, I'll
check
take
this
those.
out. Wow. Hey, Syphax, check this out. Did he just defecate? I believe he did.
Wow, it's
Scipio,
over.
You
What a loser.
clearly are the most charming man in the Mediterranean.
Wow.
My alliance is Syphax. I'll let you marry my extremely hot daughter.
Ooh.
Yours!
Yeah,
Humana,
it's over.
humana. Unable to compete with Syphax's libido, Scipio instead made contact with Syphax's
Dang.
rival, the
Nice
other
try.
Numidian king, Massinissa, who was a longtime ally
Massinissa.
of Carthage. Scipio told
He must have been feeling
Massinissa-
pretty desperate because he knew he only had one more king if he wanted this strategy to work, and this king is more allied to the Carthaginians.
You join the Romans, I'll help you defeat Syphax and become the ultimate Numidian king.
Ooh. Massive
So
robot
Massinissa
armor,
was
too.
Now on Team Rome. Good job, Skippy. With a Numidian
Wow.
alliance solidified, Scipio prepared for his invasion of
That's
Africa.
scary because they're obviously
He
on
raised a
your
volunteer
continent,
force that included many
being
of
able
the
to
disgraced
attack from
survivors
behind enemy
Cannae,
lines.
and he set sail. Well, Terry, any news from Italy? Has Hannibal won the war
Update
yet?
from Italy.
Who on earth?
Oh, how horrifying. A shining moment? Yeah,
Skippy!
shining. Love that that's still referenced.
The Roman landing sent a clear message to the Carthaginians. You don't invade us. No. We invade you. For the first
Nice.
time in the war, the Carthaginian homeland was under threat. And the
Again, the
Carthaginians
Romans taking what works and using it as their own tactics, as their own strategy. Why didn't more places do this in history? Was it their ego? Was it an ego thing? Like, oh, I don't want to be like my enemy. The Romans didn't really care about that. Well, some Romans did, but the great ones didn't.
needed to defeat Scipio at all costs. They gathered a huge army led by Hasdrubal Gisco with allied Numidians led by Syphax. And they ordered them to get Scipio
Freaking
the
Syphax.
hell off their continent. Sources say at this point, Scipio was severely outnumbered.
I could see
Scipio,
that.
That army's huge.
He's in Africa.
There's no way we can beat off all these men. How are we gonna beat off all these men? Vigorously. And while maintaining eye contact. As always, Scipio had a plan to deal with the larger
Insane,
enemy
because you know
force.
this video is going to be shown in classrooms all around the world, and that's going to go over so many people's heads.
It just so happened that Syphax was offering to try and broker peace between the Romans and the Carthaginians. And Scipio smelled an opportunity. He sent a Roman envoy to Syphax's camp. And when they got there, Syphax was like, "Hey guys, welcome to the enemy camp. Just before we begin negotiations, a small safety demonstration. As you can see, our huts are made of grass and reeds.
Nice.
Very flammable.
Yeah.
If there was even a single spark, this whole place would become a raging inferno. And all my men would burn alive."
Noted.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Roman
noted,
troops then
exactly.
reported back to Scipio about the Numidian camp, its construction, and most importantly, its flammability.
It's a couple
The
flaming
following
arrows, and then you're
night,
good.
as the sun was setting over the beautiful African plains, and the Carthaginians got all comfy in their beds, they began to gently dream of Carthaginian figs and child sacrifice.
Nice.
Good night, Carthaginians. Good night, Syphax and Gisco.
How beautiful.
Good
Oh, his
evening,
wife.
Scipio. In the night, shadowy Roman figures approached the Numidian camp. As the Numidians lay in their beds, Scipio executed his plan. The camp erupted into flames with the flammable wooden huts.
And
The
I'm assuming
fires
the
spread
resources also going to go up in
terrifyingly
flames too. I'm sure people
Men
will escape.
were burned in their beds.
Oh, well, then you just fight 'em.
Those who awoke in a panic, believing the fire to have been some kind of terrible accident, rushed
That's what it
to
seemed
the
like.
exits
Oh,
without
and then
their
you
weapons
just-
and armor. Those who saw the fire from the Carthaginian camp also rushed out unarmed.
Jeez.
And when they got there he was, Scipio.
Man, that's
the
dirty.
Romans.
These tactics are dirty, but whatever works. I mean, it's all fair in warfare, obviously, especially in the ancient world. But man, this is messed up. I'm not to say that I wouldn't do it too if I had the idea or whatever, but you could just do anything.
And their
Anything that
steel.
works. Just win. Oh, he's doing the Hannibal thing. Nice.
The terrified Carthaginians were massacred, and with heavy casualties.
Yeah, what are we talking
Hasdrubal
about?
and Syphax
Oh,
fled
we
the
don't have
scene
numbers?
of the disaster. Scipio followed this incredible success with another victory against the pair at the Battle of the Great Plains. After
Wow.
that, Massinissa chased his rival Syphax into his kingdom, where Syphax was captured.
Bam.
Massinissa was now the ultimate Numidian king.
That's what I was gonna say.
He entered Syphax's capital city. He seized Syphax's palace. He even married Syphax's wife. And
Dang.
when Scipio got mad at him for marrying a Carthaginian girl, he then poisoned his wife.
Oh.
Boys will be boys.
Wow.
Having defeated the Carthaginian armies in Africa, almost nothing now.
I was gonna say, wow, she really must have been very beautiful if like he goes and takes her after, but then he poisons her. But
And the Carthaginians were freaking out. What do we do? What do we do? There's only one thing left to do. Recall him.
ooh,
Well, Hannibal, you've been here in Italy for 16 years. This is practically your home. You're basically Italian.
Yeah,
Yes,
spaghetti.
Joe. And I've had such a lovely time. I ate spaghetti, did this with my hands.
Damn,
I've
he's so
committed my
Italian
whole
now.
life to this campaign. And
Time's
once Rome
gone
has
by,
fallen,
though.
It'll all have been worth it.
he's gonna have like a
Hannibal,
Napoleon downfall,
you
isn't
have
he?
to return to Carthage. Your Italian campaign has been for nothing. Your whole life has been a waste.
Wow, whole legacy
Imagine
gone.
being Hannibal in this moment. You left Carthage when you were 9. You probably barely even recognize your own homeland. The kingdom he had built in Spain with his father, gone.
Jeez.
And now his Italian
Is he in rage
campaign,
mode now?
His vengeance was
He's not just a horse, he's a dragon horse.
I've got Skoldemar.
Frankie's dragon horse. And the best imaginary friend.
and now his Italian
Is he in rage
campaign,
mode now?
His vengeance. Was it really all for nothing? But that was that.
And it-
Carthage was under threat.
And it had been years since he had like a really great, I'm sure he got a lot of dubs, a lot of victories, but a really great victory like he was getting in the very beginning when he crossed the first, the Alps. So does he remember how to do it?
Hannibal had to protect his home city as he left
Dang.
Italy in Rome. there was celebration, but also some
With the pistols back in the day? Roman
Now,
pistols, yes.
Scipio would have to face Hannibal in Africa, where Hannibal would have home advantage.
Yes,
While
if
Hannibal
he remembers
was on
it.
his way, the Carthaginians stalled for time and approached Scipio for peace talks. Hey, look, we never meant to start an all-out 2-decade-long war, but you did. No, that was Hannibal. He's to blame for all of this. Well, all right then. Sign this peace treaty. Okay, let me just get my signature right on there. He's here. Yes! Oh, look who's
Loser.
here, you bald prick! You're so dead now.
So they were going to sign it until he came.
Don't call me that!
I like the anime, there's a lot of, I feel like the anime faces.
The normally
this
merciful
one.
Scipio was enraged.
Anime style.
He began refusing to accept town's surrender and instead began burning everything to the ground, selling everyone into slavery.
Oh, so he's in
Hannibal,
rage
He's
mode.
burning our towns. Go stop him. Guys, he's obviously trying to lure me out there to fight on those flat plains, where his Numidian cavalry will give him the advantage. It's a trick. Well, it's working. Go and fight him. It's obviously a trap, and we're falling for it. Go and fight him. Hannibal set out to
I mean, at
meet
that point,
Scipio in the Western Plains.
To have Hannibal back finally in North Africa, I'd probably be pushing him out the door too. I'm like, do something!
And here came Scipio's final test. Finally, the teacher would face the student.
Oh,
the
man.
two greatest generals of all time. in
What a great
one
build
last-
up to this video. Like, how great. Or if I had structured it so perfectly where it really does feel like, you know, the climax, these two great generals finally going at it.
decisive battle. Would Hannibal's genius still shine through? Or would Scipio prove that he had surpassed the master? Before battle,
I
the
mean,
two
I
great
feel like
generals
Hannibal
rode
would
out
be a
from
little
their
bit more
camps and met in person for the
tired at
first
this
time.
point.
Hannibal, I'm a huge fan.
Older.
I thought you'd have more hair.
More jaded.
And I thought you'd have more eyes.
That's hilarious.
They then had a conversation, which I'll paraphrase. Hannibal said, "At the start of this war, I had great fortune in Italy. But look at me now, a sad old man who,
That's what I was
like
thinking.
other sad old men, failed to conquer Rome. Your fortune can change rapidly, Scipio.
That's what I was
You
thinking.
should consider negotiating a peace rather than risking it all.
And he
in
still
one
has,
last
you know, Scipio's still young at this point, more idealistic, more thinking that he can do anything.
fight against me." Very eloquently put. Scipio then replied, "You negotiate? Negotiate what? I took Spain. I'm about to burn your pathetic city to the ground. What could you offer me in negotiations? I already have it
Oh,
all.
no.
Ah!
Reminds me of like Vegeta or
Seriously
something.
though, Hannibal, I am such a big fan. And so, it was settled. The two great generals would face off one last time in the epic Battle of Zama.
It's funny because you know that the people, the Roman people and the Carthaginian people at this time, like it feels like even the soldiers would be like, we kind of have to do this. We kind of have to settle this once and for all for the history books. Who was better?
Scipio gave
I would
his
be
men,
like that. I'm like, I might die, but we got to
consisting of
figure out.
many survivors from Cannae,
We gotta finally
pre-battle
put a
speech
cap to this
telling
story.
them not only would they gain redemption, but they could become masters of the world.
I mean, essentially,
Hannibal told his men
Rome would eventually be
probably
master
nothing,
of the world.
because most of them didn't even speak the same language.
Jeez.
As the two
Austro-Hungarian
armies lined up for
problems
battle,
right there, World War
something
I.
interesting became clear. Hannibal had more infantry and hoped to use them to brute strength the Romans. But Scipio
It's hard to beat cavalry.
had the nimble Numidian cavalry.
It's hard-
and hoped to
they're
pull
just so
off an
OP in
embellishment.
history.
It was a complete role reversal of Cannae. As the battle began,
Chess
Hannibal
games.
made his first move. He sent his 80 war elephants to smash through
War
and
elephants.
weaken the Roman infantry. Scipio had the perfect response. He had altered his formation to create passages between the Roman maniples. His light troops stepped aside at the right moment, revealing the gaps ahead of the charging elephants. Elephants, if given the choice between a suicide charge into spears or a nice clean escape, will probably choose the escape. And that's what happened.
And then stab him in the
Some
side
elephants were so
or in the
frightened
back.
from the noise that they even turned and smashed back into the Carthaginian cavalry, which the Roman cavalry then engaged. Your move, Hannibal. Hannibal wasn't an idiot. He knew that he was fighting superior Numidian cavalry on open plains. So when his weaker cavalry ended up being routed from the battlefield, he probably wasn't surprised. and hoped the Roman cavalry would be lured as far from the battlefield as possible because his infantry needed time to do a clever little job. Hannibal had the numerical...
Again, what a chess match, which is unsurprising it was a chess match. I mean, that's judging how both these guys behaved in history. That's how they do things. It's all chess.
Advantage.
It's all strategy.
And he had
it's all
positioned his army
yada
in
yada.
3 lines. The weaker troops were at the front, while his best men, the army that had been with him in Italy,
The Italian
were
army.
in the rear. As the Romans smashed into the weaker front lines, they managed to cut through them, but suffered losses and exhaustion in doing so. The same with Hannibal's second line, so that by the time the Romans reached Hannibal's superior third line, the two
it was
sides
even.
may have now been about equal in number.
And if they have the
But
more skilled warriors,
the exhausted Romans had just fought an entire battle to get there, while the remaining Carthaginians were fresh and ready to go.
That's not good.
Hannibal was still a genius. And
That's
this
cool.
is where the final race began. Could Hannibal's stronger infantry finish off the Romans before the Roman cavalry returned from their pursuit? Who would be quicker, the Carthaginian infantry or the Roman cavalry? The answer: the cavalry.
I mean,
they had called off their pursuit
not surprising.
just in time to turn around and hit Hannibal from the rear. And that was the deciding move.
Wow.
As the sandwiched Carthaginians were hacked to pieces, Hannibal knew he had lost, and he escaped the battlefield. It was a battle that some historians say was well fought on both sides. Both showed their genius, but fortune fell in the favor of Scipio. With just a few thousand Roman casualties compared to 40,000 Carthaginians,
wow.
Scipio had won.
What a final blow.
Hannibal advised the Carthaginian Senate that it was time to surrender. 17.
Again, I mean, I feel like, yeah, the age thing was probably a huge factor. It reminds me of like a boxing match, Mayweather versus Pacquiao. If they fought when Pacquiao was younger, who knows what would have happened. But you wait enough time, age gets to him, slows him down a little bit.
Finally over. The terms Rome placed on Carthage were harsh. They lost territory and were prohibited from starting any more wars with anyone without Rome's explicit permission. Carthage basically became a weak Roman client state. And what of these two military geniuses? Well,
Powertrain Products is one of the nation's leading suppliers of remanufactured, rebuild, and used engines, transmissions, differentials, transfer cases, and cylinder heads. We offer the industry's best quality and pricing on replacement engine and drivetrain components. Our replacement engines are fully updated, including all known OEM and aftermarket repairs. We correct any performance problems and ensure that the engine you receive is an improved product over the original factory design. All of our remanufactured car and truck engines are delivered completely assembled and comes with a 3-year, 1,000,000-mile warranty. Powertrain Products also offers a 7-year, 1,000,000-mile no-fault parts and labor warranty, the greatest warranty available in the industry. Visit powertrainproducts.net to get a free, no-obligation price quote today.
Scipio returned to Rome triumphant. For his victory in Africa, he was given the title Scipio Africanus.
Dang.
He had delivered Rome from an existential threat. And so, from here on out, he was primed to dominate Roman politics. He was even offered to become consul for life, but he humbly refused.
Wow.
Politics being what it is, however, jealousy eventually grew. Scipio and his family ended up battling accusations of corruption. And Scipio, possibly becoming tired of Roman politics, retired to a nice country house by the coast.
Nice.
Hannibal
I mean, I would
also
too.
took a leading role in Carthaginian politics after the war. But again, due to jealousy, factionalism, and a possibility of arrest by the Romans, he eventually entered exile.
I
He
mean,
spent the
doesn't sound that
remainder of
bad.
his
Just
years out east,
Oh.
even advising enemies of Rome.
Wow.
Rome's hatred of Hannibal endured. and
That's
they
kinda
never
cool.
Stopped hoping to
Fun little
someday
retirement
capture
plan.
the monster. One story is told of how when a much older Hannibal was chilling in the city of Ephesus, a Roman delegation was sent to the city, and in that delegation was Scipio Africanus. The two men met for the second time, and they seem to have gotten along quite well.
I mean, now the past
Scipio
is...
asked Hannibal who he thought the 3 greatest generals of all time were. Hannibal placed Alexander the Great in number 1,
Makes
Pyrrhus
sense.
of Epirus in number 2, and in 3rd place, himself. Scipio then asked, and what if you had defeated me at Zama? Well, Scipio, then I would have been the greatest general of all time. Please, call me Skippy.
That's not
Eventually, around
terribly
183 BC,
egotistical
Hannibal,
thing to say.
now in his 60s, came under threat of Roman capture. After a long life, he chose to take some poison.
Dang.
According to Livy, his last words, "Let us now relieve the Romans of the anxiety they have so long experienced, since they think it tries their patience too much to wait for an old man's death." Wow, Hannibal.
Wow.
What a dignified end. Gross. And
It's
there
horrifying.
you have it. The Second Punic War. Finally done. It took 17 years to end the war. And on a personal note, making these videos has also taken 17 years off my life.
I'm not surprised.
Carthage
This would
began
not be a fun
recover
thing to
from the
research
war
like
shockingly
to that
fast,
amount of
however,
detail.
And anxieties over Carthage would remain in Rome.
Oversimplified's got to be done with this era. He's got to probably want to just research something completely different.
In particular, one senator would begin calling for one last crusade against Carthage to end the threat once and for all. He famously began to end all of his speeches with one singular phrase, one of the most famous phrases in Roman history.
Carthage... something... Carthage must be destroyed. Ah. Oh, I guess there is going to be a part 4, isn't there? Third... oh my goodness. Coming eventually. How can he keep going? I thought he'd be done by now. There's still more story to tell, though. Oversimplified, I won't take a year. Also, Oversimplified takes 364 days. Oversimplified is literally 80% patience, 20% knowledge. Ancient history, oh no, all hope is lost. Random brilliant commander comes out of nowhere. Hard times create strong men. Scipio and Hannibal, born to be besties, forced to be enemies. Please go subscribe to Oversimplified. And a big old thanks to my patrons. I stole Drudernell's Robux and won't return them until he plays Cartwright into Drudernell. Alexander Drew's the Argentinian grandpa. I'm back, boys. Escaped a fat Norwal. Connor I will literally revive the douchebag Megan. Drew doesn't realize Imperial Japan flag is the same as modern Japan Nord Tyrol. The Mexican 760. And Boy.
Sparkle cleans everyday messes, and it won't clean out your piggy bank.
This video was made possible by Honey. Install now for free using the link below and start saving money when you shop online. After the Third and Fourth Coalition Wars, Napoleon had decisively defeated all 3 of his main rivals on the continent, and he was now undoubtedly the master of Europe. After the Battle of Friedland, his enemies sued for peace, and they all met on a raft on a river for negotiations. They had been fighting for the past 4 years, but now Napoleon and Alexander surprisingly got along like a house on fire. They laughed together, they chatted long into the night, they kissed. The two had a lot of mutual respect, and Napoleon even told his wife that if Alexander were a woman, I would make him my mistress. Kind of a weird thing to say to your wife, Napoleon. In the end, they came to an amicable agreement. Russia would lose barely any land, and in return, they'd join France against the UK and invade Sweden. Win-win. On the other hand, Frederick William III was sidelined, and Prussia lost an enormous amount of territory to French client states. Only the UK remained as the last major threat to Napoleon, and they continued to be a big thorn in his side, constantly funding his enemies and using their powerful navy to wreak havoc on French trade and overseas colonies. But what could Napoleon do? The British were safe across the channel. Well, he said, if I can't fight you with guns, I'll fight you with money. Earlier in 1806, Napoleon had announced the Continental System, a total shutoff of the UK from continental trade. No one in Europe was to trade with Britain, and Napoleon hoped that by hitting their economy, he could force them to negotiate. The British economy did take a hit, and they responded in their typical fashion, by going to Copenhagen and blowing a bunch of stuff up. But in general, the British managed to stay afloat by simply increasing their trade with other parts of the world. many neutral countries found themselves stuck between a rock and a hard place as the two European superpowers demanded they cease trade with the enemy. Hey America, you better not trade with the French or else I'll come burn down the White House. What? This is gonna wreck my economy. I need to start saving money. How the heck am I gonna start saving money? Yeah, that's right, you know where this is going. Do you like shopping in store? Of course not. Then you'd have to get up and use your legs. Gross. Well, what if I told you you could save money doing your shopping from the comfort of your own outhouse, allowing you to upgrade your outhouse to a porta potty? Go you. Honey is a free browser extension that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it can find to your cart. Here I am buying 12 liters of hair gel so I can look my best. I just click this button and Jiminy Crickets. Honey stepped in and helped me save $40. Honey is completely free and has found over Simplified viewers over $403,000 in savings so far. So seriously, why haven't you added it to your browser yet, you dingus? Click on the link below, joinhoney.com/oversimplified.